Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy few days before a long weekend for many of us. We are really looking forward to today's fireside chat with Bonusly's very own people team. While we let people trickle in, we would love for you all to just put in the chat where you are calling in from or tuning in from. I'm sure there are people all over the country and maybe even some people worldwide. But we are, one, just super appreciative that you are taking some time on, I'm sure, a very busy Thursday for you, just to chat with us, hear from us. We're really excited for today's conversation, like I said. My name is David. I am on the marketing team here at Bonusly, and I am calling from Jacksonville, Florida. I see Lily in the chat is not too far from me in Orlando. We actually are fresh from HR Florida. It is Florida's regional SHRM conference. We were there Monday and Tuesday this week, had such a fun time getting to know lots of fellow HR practitioners from all over Florida. So I'm sure some of you may be tuning in today. But we are really looking forward to today's chat. It is a pretty bold topic, which I'm sure caught many of your all's attention, and really just all around performance and really Bonusly's belief in how, performance reviews aren't cutting it anymore. Really, how we believe that managers are really the drivers and multipliers of performance. And so we're really looking forward today to talk to you about, one, why this topic is so important, why managers are so important. We're really excited to talk to you about how Bonusly does it with our managers, how we train them, what our process looks like. But then also to get a little personal with Adri and Mollie, since it is almost that manager direct report relationship. So we can see what that looks like with them, what their one on one conversations look like, how they've built the trust over the years. So, really looking forward to today's chat. But before we dig in, just a few housekeeping rules, or not so much rules, but just comments. Uh, Zoom pretty much defaults to chatting with just the host and panelists, which we love to chat with you, but I'm sure you would want to chat with everyone. So make sure you switch that little arrow to everyone so that way you can talk with everyone. Feel free to share your LinkedIn's. As we're talking, we would love to hear your thoughts on whatever we're discussing. What's resonating with you, things that you may do at your company that would contribute to the conversation. We just love to make our webinars engaging and include the audience as much as possible. And then the other thing is we will be saving time at the end for some Q&A with Adri and Mollie. So as we're talking, if anything comes to mind for you, feel free to put it in the Q&A section. It may get lost in the chat. And so please use that Q&A box and we will get to those at the end. But before we dive into the conversation, let's go ahead and meet Adri and Mollie really quick. And so we'll start with you, Adri, but just share where you're calling in from, what your role is here at Bonusly, and then would love to hear from the audience as well. But any fun plans you have for the long weekend?
Love that. And first, I just want to give a huge shout out to David, who is so phenomenal and has put this webinar together for everyone today. So David, thank you for all your thoughtfulness and welcome everybody. We appreciate you joining us. My name is Adri. I'm the VP of People and Culture over at Bonusly. I'm calling from Hoboken, New Jersey, but we're a fully remote company of about 75, and our whole mission is making work better and really finding ways to connect and really bring out the people and manager experience day to day. I'm really excited. It's Labor Day weekend in the US. It's also my birthday on Saturday. So I'll be going away with my 2.5-year-old daughter, my husband, just for a long weekend in the country. I'm really excited for that. And the weather's already starting to feel a little chillier in the Northeast. So we can't wait for fall to get started.
Happy birthday, Adri. We are sending you the best birthday wishes. And thank you, David, for putting this together so nicely, as always. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend today. I am so excited to be here. And my name is Mollie. I am our senior talent partner here at Bonusly. I am calling from Austin, Texas, where it does not feel like fall yet, but that's okay. I'm counting down the weeks until it gets cooler here. And this weekend, I'm heading up to Iowa for my niece's fifth birthday party, and it's camping themed, so we'll be camping. But yeah, I'm excited to be here with everyone today.
I love it. And yes, happy birthday, Adri. So excited. Hope you have such a fun weekend. But let's get into the conversation. So, just to set the stage, I know I already said it before, but Adri and Mollie are not only our people team here at Bonusly, they do it all, run it all, handle it all. I am constantly in awe of everything they juggle, everything they balance, everything they do. And so, really looking forward to see or just have them explain things that we do here at Bonusly, give you a little window into how we view performance and managers and everything in between. But also, Adri and Mollie have this manager direct report relationship. So we'll get into it later on. But like I said, how it plays out with them, how they do everything that we're going to talk about. And so, really excited about today's conversation. And if you've been to any of our webinars, we usually have, a whole presentation deck, slides, but today we're going to just get a little personal. And so we're going to have no slides. We're just going to have Adri, Mollie, and I's faces here on the screen. And so we welcome you, like I said, to give us your thoughts as we're talking, join in the chat. We really want this to be conversational. And so with that, let's dive right in. So our first sort of section that we're going to talk about, we want to just really cover, why managers are important and, like the title states, like why we view that managers really are, the multipliers of performance with their direct reports. And so, Adri, let's start with you. Why does Bonusly believe that managers are really the true drivers of performance and engagement?
Yeah, thanks for kicking us off, David. I'm so excited about this topic today. To start, when I think about the role of the manager, the first thing pops in my mind is people manager. I can't separate in my mind the idea of being a manager without the aspect of really caring for people. And that's something that we truly believe here on Bonusly. I also find it to be the key foundation to building relationships, and for me, as I think about aspects of unlocking performance, engagement, managers are on the front lines. They know their teams best. They're the ones that are really setting the tone for culture. They're making sure that the teams feel included, that special moments as my team did today, shouted out my birthday. When I heard Mollie's title of senior talent partner, I was like, gosh, she does so much more than that, right? We're more than just a title in an organization, we're people. And the managers are the ones that, again, are going to know their people best. They're going to see their performance. They're going to be there through milestones, such as anniversaries, birthdays, wedding celebrations. There's so many great things that happen in our lives. And the HR team, we are, also on the ground. We're here to enable, but we're never going to be as close, to that relationship as a manager and a direct report. So to me, the managers are really, really fundamental in terms of not only setting the tone for culture, building those relationships, but really helping our teams grow from A to B as they think about their career growth, their happiness in a company, even talent retention. And I know, like David always has so many great stats, but I think about, the statement of so many times employees don't quit jobs because they've necessarily outgrown roles, but they quit managers, right? So when we think about that in the broader picture of how people really feel empowered at work, it really comes down to having that trust, that relationship building, and for somebody to really make sure that they are looking out for you, they are looking out for your growth. They're also looking out to make sure that you feel like you can be your whole self and open and honest with whatever is going on the work front, so we can support you.
I love that. And I think to touch on your point is, as a member of the HR team, we don't interact with every employee every day. And they instead are interacting with their managers and they're building those relationships with their managers. And I think from my perspective, it's Adri, my manager, who ties back my growth and my feedback and puts it all into a big picture. And that really drives inspiration. It drives momentum. Like Adri said as well, culture is driven by our managers too. Here in the HR team, we can propose things and set up policies and initiatives and systems, but we can't act that out for everybody. That's where our managers come in, is really living our values. And I think most importantly is managers are teaching their ICs and they're leading by example. And so I learn all the time from AG, just when she does something, I'm like, oh, that's a great example of how to do that. And so I think managers just really connect all of those dots, and they get those insights that might be hard for us to do every single day when it comes to people and their growth, and maybe they're going through something and need a little extra care. And so that personal touch is just really what makes all the difference there.
Absolutely. And you hit a good point there, Molly, because, we talk about it fairly often, but especially HR teams are stretched thin. I mean, you all have so many things on your task list, on your to-do list that you are, put over and put in charge of. And you can't do it all. And so that really is where those managers come into play. And again, we talk about it, almost every single webinar, but especially in the last few years, I mean, we are really in a manager crisis to where managers are overwhelmed. They have so much to do. They often, have, oftentimes people leave and the managers take on a lot of those job duties and responsibilities that those direct reports used to do. And so managers are not only, managing, but also doing. And so, managers really more than ever need the support of, HR and leadership and companies to do their jobs. They need the tools, they need the clarity, they need the support, to your point, because they are on the front lines. Like you said, they are the ones talking to the direct reports every day. They're the ones, like you said, know the personal details of, this person is going through a lot, in their personal life, and I need to support them and do this. And so that really is where, HR comes into play in supporting them. And I, will bring it up because we're coming up on review season, but one of the biggest areas is performance reviews. And we talk about this, year after year, but most CHROs, most managers, most direct reports really don't see the value in performance reviews. It causes stress, it causes anxiety. They, both managers and direct reports, can't really remember all that happened over the course of 6 months or a year. And so, Adri, what's broken about this system? Like, what's broken with this once a year look back of somebody's performance? And really, how does it leave managers under equipped to actually lead?
Absolutely, David. I'll start with something that might make a few of you smile, and I'd love in the chat. Has any HR professional, anyone out there, ever had an employee come to you and say, I am so excited to do my performance review, or a manager tell you, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get started. And even if the conversations are meaningful, right? This is one of those things. I see LOL now. I feel the same way, and I think that it kind of starts with that, right? When I think about traditional performance reviews, they feel very heavyweight. They feel like a look back. They feel like on top of everything else I have to get done in a busy work week, I have to stop and think about everything I've been doing, versus this feeling empowering, exciting, enabling, right? This should be one of the coolest things that we can be doing for ourselves and our people, is looking at all the great things that we've done throughout the year and enabling our people to be excited about getting to that next level, whether that's next level in your career or expanding yourself. I'm a big believer in continuous learning. And I believe that the problem with traditional performance reviews is that it is a look back versus a continuous process. I think that if we're doing performance reviews right, then we're talking all the time, and managers and employees know where they stand. And there should be not an awkward, like, hey, you're not performing well, but like a conversation in the one-on-ones to be saying like, hey, this is where I think you can be doing better, and where we can help you build that skill set, or use your professional development stipend, or we'll spend a little bit of time. Here's my commitment to you as the people manager. This is where I need you to also work to meet in the middle to develop that skill set before it becomes an issue, right? And I think that part of performance management too is it can feel very intimidating for many employees, even if you know you're performing well. It's this whole like sit down situation versus like, let's just have a conversation. If we've been doing it right all year long, then it should feel fun. It should feel exciting. It should feel like we've got some great things that we're going to build together in partnership between our people managers and our employees. And that's something that I very much have a heart in changing, and we'll talk more about what we're doing here at Bonusly. But to me, I feel like looking at things in the old school way of just like making processes tedious, making them look back versus continuous and motivating is one of the biggest factors that doesn't unlock potential and doesn't set us up for success. With doesn't matter which system you use, I think it all comes back to the same root problem. But Mollie, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, of course. And you shared that so well, Adri. I would just say it's with it being a look back, it's so easy for as an employee or as an IC to lose sight of everything that you've done. And same for managers. It's you have a team of several reports. How it you're looking back, maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months, everyone on your team, they've done a lot in that time. And so I feel like one message or one performance review doesn't do justice that of the work of everyone's done. I think that's why the continuous feedback or the continuous recognition makes more of a difference, because it's continuous, it's building that momentum, and it's not losing sight of those maybe littler tasks. I always say one big win, it's a big win because you had a bunch of little wins along the way. And so I think that those also deserve to be celebrated as well. And I think it's really hard for managers as well, or perhaps even on the HR side, is when you look at these traditional performance reviews, they're not focused on people. They're focused on paperwork and checking off these boxes and saying, okay, what did I contribute? Okay, that's done. Now what do I do with my growth? Where do I want to put that? And for me, it seems so redundant because I have these conversations with Adri every week. And so when I go into my performance review, it's almost like a task for me, because I feel like we've already just been having these conversations, and it's been continuous. And so I think that the time, the effort, it's like Adri said, it's not it's not a super fun thing that people love to do. It encourages growth, and we're all for encouraging growth and having these conversations, but it should be happening more than, 2 to 4 times a year.
Totally. And Mollie, if I could just add, I wrote this down as you were chatting. I love how you said traditional performance reviews aren't focused on people. They're really focused on process, And I really step back and I think about, gosh, how much time HR leaders or, whoever's running the process spends in setting up the system, sending reminders, being like, we are at 50% completion. And that's not where we want to be as HR leaders. That's not where we want to be as managers. We want to be inspiring. We want to talk about why are we really doing this? And it's to really help employees know where they stand, how we look at growth, how do we look at enablement, how do we look at just ways not only for employees to do better, but us as managers to get feedback. I very much believe that performance is a two-way street. So I'm very much in the camp. I think we're all very much in the camp at Bonusly of like helping to recognize like that is the root problem. And like there's some great ways that we feel like we're already on an amazing path, making a difference in a new school way of thought. But the first thing we need to do is recognize like these pain points are something like we're all sharing, we're all experiencing. And I love the LOL no in the chat. It's okay to have a laugh and be human about it too. There's no reason to feel like, oh, so sad about this. No, we can change it. We can make a big difference.
For sure. And I know Mollie hinted at it a little bit, but before we get into the next section, really here at Bonusly, we believe, and we've coined it the term, continuous performance. One-on-one or performance reviews that happen once a year, maybe twice a year, are oftentimes, to Mollie and Adri's points, sometimes this big shocker, this big stressful event. A lot of times the topics that are discussed or that come up from both the manager and the direct report are, maybe sometimes a total surprise. And so we here at Bonusly really, believe those conversations that oftentimes happen maybe once or twice a year should be happening continuously, whether that be in weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins. But, if there's this constant check-in process where you are discussing wins, discussing growth, discussing goals, recognizing your direct reports for the work that they've done, it's almost like these coins in a bank. So then once you get to the performance review, our chief customer officer, Deborah, who many of you may have seen on a webinar, she always says, with this process, then you get to review time. And reviews are just a recap of everything that you've discussed. There's nothing surprising. There's nothing anxiety inducing. It really is just a recap of what you've done and accomplished and spoken about during those ongoing check-ins. And so, like I said, we really believe in continuous, check-ins, continuous feedback, and continuous recognition. And so we'll dive into a few of those here next. And so we'll start with you, Adri, but here at Bonusly, obviously we are a recognition platform. And so we talk to people very often on, how to do recognition right. It's not just this vague impersonal shout out, this, checkbox thing like we just talked about, but really making it intentional. And so here at Bonusly, Adri, how are we making recognition more than just, a standard shout out, but how do we tie it to business goals and culture? And what are some fun things we do?
Yeah, absolutely, David. The first thing I'll say is that I believe that holistic performance isn't just about hitting goals. It's not just what we're doing, but it's how we're doing it, right? And to me, when I think about, recognition and this to me is not just a nice to have. I think that it's very much a need to have, right? When I think about performance, it's not just the things that you did checkbox or the things that you can improve, but it's also the great milestones, things that you've accomplished, the way that you got there that really matter. And some of that work can be done behind the scenes. I think whether you're remote, hybrid, in person, managers have a very clear window into performance, but then there's times your teams are off collaborating with other departments, other leaders. So when I think about how we use Bonusly and how we look at performance, I think that it's very powerful that we tie recognition, one, to our business goals, but two, as part of our values. So when we give recognition, we really encourage not just saying, hey, thanks so much, keep doing what you're doing. We want employees to really reflect on what they're doing that's meaningful so that we can reinforce behaviors and also performance that we want to see them continue to thrive in, but also inspire others to raise the bar as well. So, when we look at these pieces of recognition, that is a form of feedback. That's a way of letting them know that they're doing an incredible job. And that can be done peer to peer, manager to employee, top down, bottom up. So I find it to be very powerful that this really can show a collective 360 piece of a person's feedback in the company, not just a one-way window or view, or when you look back, you think about recency bias or like, oh my gosh, I've forgotten what I've done. This is a really powerful way that we find performance to be just really resonating and really helping employees to see and managers to see a collective picture of the things that they're doing really well. When we think about like the values, I think that, again, I talked about that instilling ways of behavior. One of our values here, is raise the bar, get it done. Like in a startup environment, it's very much sometimes about rolling up your sleeves, wearing multiple hats. Like we might not have documentation to do that, but when we see somebody step up and really take initiative to figure it out or step in to help another team member, even when it's out of scope, that's incredible. Like that's wonderful to see those stories. It's wonderful to see that performance in action. And especially if it's not something that like happens in a team meeting, it can be very powerful to see like how your teams are acting and behaving and like bringing out performance on the ground to make an impact, whether directly on a goal or a way of working or something to instill culture. So, I really find that recognition is the smartest people tool. And at Bonusly as well, we also do feedback, like more constructive feedback in a private setting and through one-on-ones as well. But when I think about the impact of recognition on culture and employees just feeling the win of the great things that they're doing, celebrating their team members, employees also adding on and saying, yes, thank you so much for like helping to cross the finish line with that project. it feels very rewarding. It feels very validating. It's not just appreciation and nice words. It really helps the employee, especially when you think about those that may be more behind the scenes, like support, IT, sometimes HR, finance. These are very powerful ways where invisible work can become visible and really inspire employees to know they're on the right track. They're getting feedback that's meaningful, connected to goals, connected to values, as I said before, but also lets them know, gives them a signal to know things that they should continue to focus on and build into conversations and one-on-one conversations here at Bonusly. We tie the recognition into our one-on-one documents too. So when managers and employees sit down together for conversations on that weekly, bi-weekly basis, as David said, they're able to see that recognition, and that becomes a discussion point as well. That might be a weekly win to discuss with your teams, or just something to recognize and say, tell me more about that. I had no idea that you were working on that project. That was really great to see that recognition. I want to learn more and keep the conversation going. I said a mouthful. I'm so excited about this topic, but Mollie, I'm going to turn over to you and would love your thoughts as well.
Yeah, of course. And I think recognition for us, especially being remote, is a great way for managers to get insights on all of the things that their employees are doing and how well they're doing it and all of the amazing accomplishments. And so I think one, the visibility is just amazing. Like Adri said, we have a member on our people team. Her name is Roja, and she just completed a round of really in-depth audits, and no one would ever know that Roja completed these very in-depth, time-consuming tasks of these audits. But recognition that we give her, it kind of shows that one, we appreciate her doing that more than we can ever convey, and two, it gives insight to other people in the company, like, oh wow, that's a huge accomplishment, and we might not have heard about that besides recognition. I think there's some practices we have in place when it comes to recognition that help make it more impactful. One is to be very specific. Instead of saying, oh, great job, David, on this webinar, it could be, hey, David, great job thinking of these really thoughtful questions and making it casual and conversation. And also timeliness. We encourage people to give recognition as soon as it happens or shortly after. And then two, I think tying recognition back to values as someone that's not a manager, that makes my life um, a lot easier when I get these pieces of recognition that says, "Oh, Mollie, you raised the bar." That's something that I can kind of use as a self-performance review in a way. Is, oh, here, okay, I've been living my values through these pieces of recognition. I think it speaks for itself instead of me saying, "Oh, yeah, I've been living my values." Instead, I have these pieces of evidence. And then I also think too, back to my previous point is you lose sight of all of the amazing things that you do all the time. We will hit this huge milestone, and then the next day, I'm like, okay, what's on my to-do list next? And I forget a lot of the great things that our team does, and it's not because it's not important. It's so important, but it's just because we have so much exciting things to do. And so I think recognition to me is like, okay, I'm going to slow down, recognize that I'm getting this recognition, and then same for all the people that you're giving recognition to as well. And I think when it comes from a manager, it's even more special because you're saying, oh yeah, my hard work is being seen. And I think employees really want to be seen, and I think that drives just a really positive culture there.
For sure. And I think, one of those big pieces to this is that peer-to-peer aspect. And so, whether you have a formalized tool or program like Bonusly, a lot of people have, just a more informal, but like maybe a Slack or Teams channel where they can give shout outs, do shout outs, or during all hands meetings, or, like Sahili put in the chat, they have like a monthly and quarterly one. But that peer-to-peer aspect is huge, especially for managers, because one, it not only, democratizes the process and doesn't put the recognition responsibility solely on the manager, but gives it to the employees. But with that, the manager then gets what we call at Bonusly these signals. They see things they may not see otherwise. Looking at what their direct report is getting recognized. They might not even know the impact that their direct report is having, or the various projects they may be involved in, or who they're helping out with. And so we, call those signals here at Bonusly. We really believe that recognition is a signal. It shows from the manager point of view, what my direct report is working on, what they're excelling in, or they might get recognition, and the manager then has a signal to say, hey, let me bring that up in our check-in. Like, hey, how did that go? What can I help you with? What could you do even better next time to, raise the bar for that situation? And so, it brings in those moments that oftentimes are saved for review season or performance reviews, and really just makes them more part of your ongoing conversations. And so that brings us to the next question. And so, Adri, would love your thoughts on, one-on-ones. And so, we talk about recognition as a signal, like giving the manager visibility into not only what their direct report is working on and doing, but also opening up these opportunities for the manager to recognize them or give them feedback. But what tools or practices help make these small but important moments actually turn into learning and growth opportunities for the direct report?
Yeah. Oh, I love that, David. I think that for me, one of the biggest success tools is going to be that employee and manager one-on-one. That's a space for employees and managers to really come together. And while there can be philosophical differences, I believe that employees should really drive the conversation and talk about what's top of mind for them, but it should be an equal partnership with the manager also having topics and opportunity to give feedback and really reflect on not only what are we working on, not take a checkbox mentality, but really be forward thinking and really help translate bigger vision and strategy into day to day, while mapping out, it could be mapping out a growth plan for your employees as well. So the one-on-one to me is an incredible way to really capture those small but important moments, right? Bring them front and center. As I alluded to earlier, here at Bonusly, we have our one-on-ones like baked into our day-to-day practices within Bonusly, because we find that the power of seeing those recognitions and seeing how that translates to goals and values is not only, a small win or a big win to celebrate, but like a really important topic as we think about holistic performance, right? So, when I think about like not losing sight of those moments, it starts there. It starts with, being able to like set the stage for, going into a one-on-one with positivity, with aspects of looking at those moments and really being intentional around like helping the employee understand how does that fit into broader vision? How does that fit into our direction as a company, our goals for the quarter, goals for half year? And again, we want to make sure that as managers, we're there to enable, we're there to empower. If we're really doing it right, again, it's not a checkbox. It's not, okay, we hit these goals. It's very much a journey and a continuous learning journey to support our teams and make sure that we're helping to unlock their potential. But that starts with, again, the human relationship, right? The people relationship there, and making sure that, this is a safe, this is a comfortable space. This is a space where we can talk about great recognition. It's also an opportunity to talk about feedback and constructive feedback, right? To help with growth and development. So I see two sides of the same coin, but I think that it can be a much more inviting space for managers and employees when you set the framework like that, right? And you have a culture that is about recognition and appreciation. And one of our top value, or we don't have top value, but we kind of have a pyramid with our values that grows up a ladder. And the foundation for us is trust first and always. So if we can bake that into our one-on-ones and we can start with the culture of recognition, appreciation, it builds, a foundation not only of trust, but enablement to be able to have some of those more constructive or more difficult conversations, right? With the goal of really supporting our teams to bring out their best. And when I think about like growth opportunities, that recognition is a signal. It's a signal to say what my team's working on, where we should be focusing our attention. It's a way of building into also seeing things that like I haven't seen before. So if I see Mollie being recognized for something on the engineering team, maybe I'm like, what were you working on? Like if it's something outside recruitment or more of her function, I think that that's wonderful. but it really guides growth in every conversation, you know? And as I think about it, like Mollie and I will meet weekly without fail. And have this consistent time just to make sure like we're aligned. We also have time just to catch up personally. Mollie celebrated her 4-year anniversary a couple of weeks back. And she told me that like that night she went home and she, you know, within busy day-to-day schedules, like you forget all these moments that like really build up all of your accomplishments and how you feel and how you're treated at work to like help you feel like included, inspired, motivated, you know, retained, all of it. And she went through the recognition with her family that day or that night, right, Mollie? It's so powerful in terms of employees just feeling seen at work, feeling visible, feeling appreciated. But again, there's been so much in the one-on-ones that Mollie and I have had that have helped me to get to know her better, get me to understand where she's focusing her time, where she likes focusing her time. Like, how does that help me have conversations to then enable her more as a manager and build a plan, you know, whether formalized or, you know, within the one-on-one doc, to give her exposure and experiences to other levels and challenges and things that could really unlock her curiosity and help her to be the best possible HR professional she could be, not just at Bonusly, but anywhere.
I love that, Adri. And you're right. I did. I made my family look at all the recognition that people sent me. I think it was a good reminder to myself, but also them of all the hard work we do on people ops teams. It's not an easy feat. And I think with like the one-on-ones, I think it's a safe space. And I think to Adri's point, um, learning how someone best works, I think is amazing. Um, Adrian knows this about me, and I feel like it's made our relationship more productive as she knows all these personal things about me. She knows that am a words of affirmation person. And she leverages that when she gives me recognition. Instead of doing like the videos, she writes it because she knows that I prefer that. And she knows I have a family, and so I leave for pickup, and then I come back and I finish working once they're settled. And so I might be, finishing work later on, but it's because I took a nice break. And she's always so receptive of me being a pickup line. She's like, "Oh, focus on pickup. It's don't even think twice about that." And I think it's just those little things about knowing and building that relationship that makes all of the difference. But then I also think if there's a safe space, then you have the chance to really grow because you can admit to where you're struggling, or you can be vulnerable. You can also share your mistakes. And I think that those are all things to be celebrated because you learn from those things. And so I never feel silly saying, "Oh, hey, I have no idea. I've never encountered this before. What do we do here?" And I'm not scared to ask that because of that relationship there. And that helps me grow. I also think too that growth is often looked at, I think, as like such a big milestone, but I think growth is really small moments. And it could be like, "Oh, hey, I grew today because I completed this small project," or "I learned this about the benefits world that I had no idea." And so I think those conversations and those one-on-ones and that recognition, it all ties back to celebrating little moments of growth, like I've hinted on before, but it just encouraged growth in so many different ways. But yes, David, I'll let you add on anything as well.
Yeah, no, I think you both started to get into the next section. And so this is a great segue. But before we get there, I just want to do a commercial break. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A box. We'll get to them at the end of this webinar. But let's get personal. We really want to know what all of this looks like in action between you both, Adri and Mollie. And so, we talked about one-on-ones. So tell us, and we'll start with you, Adri, but as VP and senior talent partner, you both do a weekly one-on-one. How do you structure it? What does it look like? Adri, you hinted at it about letting the direct report sort of drive the conversation, but how do you all do it? And then, over time, how have you used those one-on-ones to your point, Mollie, build that trust and start to build that muscle?
Absolutely. And I'll start by saying that my one-on-ones with Mollie and Roja on my team are by far my favorite meetings and places to be each week. I love meeting with my team. I love, how we structure these and like the ability that we have to get to know each other better, talk about the great things we're doing, and really set the stage for like, okay, let's like get to action. So the first thing that we do when we set up our one-on-one is we do a check-in, right? We have a scale of 1 to 5 here on our team. And I ask them, and I answer for myself too, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 5? And tell me a little bit more. And it might be like a 5 because we just closed 3 amazing sales reps this week. Or it could be like, I'm feeling kind of a 3 because we didn't close on those 3 sales reps this week, but like we're going to build up that energy again. And it helps me, one, to just know like, how is my team honestly doing? I think it's a fantastic way to just be ourselves, be human before you jump into the work, right? I also tell the team, like, this is how I'm feeling. I had a great meeting, some great insights, or I didn't quite get all the info I needed. We also make sure to like check in personally, like, how are you doing personally? What do you have upcoming? Mollie's going to Iowa, she mentioned, for her niece's birthday. It's my birthday weekend. I find it to be just so wonderful to start out our one-on-ones with just being ourselves, letting our hair down, being able to like really get a gauge on how we're doing so that we can really tackle whatever's top of mind together, be it personal, professional, like we're in this together. The next thing that we do is we actually transcribe our one-on-one. So I don't transcribe like the personal stuff, but we do start transcribing like the notes that we're taking so that we can be fully present in the conversation and just being a little more AI powered. I know a lot of HR teams out there, I don't consider myself to be the most tech savvy, but I'm really enjoying the experience of using transcriptions for one-on-ones because it's helping me be fully present in the moment without having to handwrite things. My handwriting is atrocious, by the way. It's really chicken scratch, but it allows me to like then go through with the team, like what's top of mind. So Mollie or Roja will come up with, either a laundry list of things or some comments and questions, and we go through it, in top order priority. It might be, Adri, I need an update from you on this. I'm a little bottlenecked, or I'm not really sure what direction to go. I got this email from an employee. How should we best support them on the benefit side? Or we need to tactically do A, B, and C. So we go through that together. I always make sure that like every week my team has access to me in and outside of the one-on-one, but the one-on-one is really our space to, again, make sure that like we're going to brain jam together. We're going to troubleshoot whatever needs to be done. By the end of that meeting, if there's some follow-ups, I make sure that like, hey, we have notes that say like, these are our action steps and what we each commit to doing by X date. But we never walk away from that meeting feeling like things are unanswered, or if they are in that gray vein of unanswered, we have a plan to like get there. So my team never feels like they're bottlenecked or like they don't have a space to talk or they're waiting on me for information. So that's really important for us to stay connected. As I said, like we have the action steps. I use the transcription to also get summaries. So a lot of the times I'll think out loud and say, okay, we're going to do A, B, and C and kind of guide like what I think we should be doing next. I love the AI transcriptions because it captures in real time and like helps me synthesize. And then we're like, yes, without going back and having to like manually write that or type that up. It really helps us just stay more aligned. It's saving a lot of that like administrative work, but it's like really just capturing again, like what we're doing in the moment and how we're setting plans for the future. Those one-on-ones too, we don't have a direct art and science. We're a fairly small team, so we know where we stand. But like there's times in the one-on-ones too where we have a feedback section and I'll ask Mollie and Roja on my team, are there things I can be doing better? Like I know that I was just at an offsite this week. It's been a few days. Is there anything that like I've left bottleneck? Like where can I be doing better? Where can I communicate better? Very intentional that like the one-on-one is a space, not just to give Mollie feedback on like what I'm seeing, performance direction and guidance or her laundry list of action items, but that I'm also intentional in saying like, what can I be doing better as a manager for you? Or what do you need to see more of? Or in terms of our broader vision strategy, we're about to wrap up Q3. How are you feeling on those goals? Like where can I be, or where can we as a leadership team be doing better to provide that clarity, that insight? So in a nutshell, I find them to be very productive. I find them to be really fun. I find that there's always new things that my team is working on that like I know the main goals, but then there's odds and ends in between. So it really gives me, again, that visibility, the confidence, the ability to like also just roll up my sleeves and dig in with them. And again, it's a continuous conversation. So we always feel in sync. We always know like what's kind of planned. It also gives us the opportunity to like set little milestones and growth, you know, like knowing Mollie's career trajectory from our performance review. We do these twice a year, every 6 months. I can then check in on the things that really mattered her and say, here's a project that we have upcoming for Q4 that I think could really help with that trajectory or your career interest. So again, it's not brought into like my weekly or bi-weekly conversations with Mollie, but it's something that's very much pegged and tied into how we look at a growth plan development and like keeping that very airtight in between those 6-month performance cycles.
Oh, Adri, you summed it up perfectly. One word that you said that I was going to say was that um, our one-on-ones are really fun. We have laughs and we will talk about tough things, um, but they're enjoyable. And I think that's what makes them so productive. And I think that's why managers are really important because while it's the IC's time to come in and share growth and what they want to be doing and help remove any roadblocks, that sort of thing, I think when things are enjoyable, people are more present and they're more excited about it and they're more bought in. And so when it's really rigid and kind of like we're talking about performance reviews where no one's really looking forward to them because it's just so much. I think our key with our one-on-ones is that we have an agenda, but we keep it light. It takes me 10 minutes to prepare for our one-on-one. I think if it were to take me 2 hours to prepare for our one-on-one, I'd probably go into the meeting a little bit less excited about it because it's lightweight, it ties back to recognition, it ties back to what I've been doing, gives us a chance to connect. And so I think keeping it so it's working for both parties is what's most important because that's really going to drive that growth and that momentum there.
Absolutely. And I will echo Mollie's sentiment. As a direct report with my manager, I actually look forward to our one-on-ones. I mean, I was gone all this week for a conference, have a webinar today. We're actually off tomorrow at Bonusly, and so it's a busy week, but I still, am so excited for my one-on-one with my manager happening in a couple hours from now because it is, to your point, like such a fun time. We have built that relationship where we, start out catching up, like what's going on. I can't wait to tell them about the conference. But then I am the one who puts in, for the most part, like things I want to discuss, questions, inputs that I have. And then similar to you all, maybe every other week or once a month, we check in on goals, like things that we may have set during the performance review conversation or goals that we set out at the beginning of the year. We just check in on those. He asks, how can I help you? And similar to Adri is like, hey, like this is a project coming up that I think you could do or work on or help on is a way to, move towards those goals or for your professional development. And so I love that you both highlighted those sections. And so my next question for you both is more around recognition. In that topic, earlier of recognition is a signal for especially the manager, but also for direct reports. And so I would love for you both. This is a two-parter, and you can pick which one you want to answer. But is there a moment over, the past few years, using a tool like Bonusly for recognition or whatever shout out tool people may use, but can you share a moment of recognition between you two that made a really big impact and changed how you work together? Or, or has there ever been, recognition surfaced that's led to something maybe unexpected about your team or culture that's helped shape the way that you've coached or led? And so we'll start with you, Adri.
Oh, great questions, David. Okay. Gosh, I don't know if there's like one specific piece of recognition because to me, it's the flow of just how we're intentional, and how I look to just appreciate Mollie in the moment. Like that's really the most important. And I think vice versa, when I receive recognition from my team or others within Bonusly, it helps. First, it makes me feel seen. I think that there's a lot of HR teams out there that sometimes when you tell people, I don't know if you ever tell your friend circle or other people you work in HR and they're like, oh, HR, oh my gosh, like ring the alarm and it's terrible. Like, I think HR people do so many great things behind the scenes, and that we can build a culture at Bonusly and within our companies, each of us here on this webinar, that really shows the true face of, the great things that HR can do. And that starts again with like building trust, with being the face of culture, but recognizing that we're also employees that walk through that door virtually or in person, right? So those moments of appreciation of thank you so much for helping me with my relocation and getting my family settled in the Netherlands, that's huge, like, I mean, yes, quote unquote, it's our job, but you're making an impact in people's lives. And I think similarly, when last year we did a whole migration, we moved from one HRIS to another. So we moved from one system to Rippling. And that takes so much work. And just the shout out that Roja and Mollie got from executives saying like, this was done without a ripple. Like, people didn't even realize that, we were in a new system. You guys just did such a beautiful job. And from personal experience, seeing that, in other companies, like, this is not an easy task. Like, this really takes a lot of moving pieces. There's bumps, there's blackout periods, people get locked out. I was so proud of my team that they did it without a flaw. And it really gave me so much pride as a manager to see, like, not just like the work that we do, but like how they did it and how they did it very people first, to make sure that, like, yes, our priority was getting a new system by Jan 1st, but it was really like how we did that for our people that mattered. So it encourages me to think about my own leadership. And again, as I mentioned earlier, not just the what are we doing, but how are we doing it? And how do we want to be seen in the org? And how do we want to like make a difference in our culture? So I think it's moments like that that really just help me reflect, not just on feedback that I give my team and the great things I want to inspire, but like the kind of leader I want to be and continue to grow into. I don't think we ever stop growing or should stop growing, and continue to be learners. The other bit I'll mention is that it's become a tradition now at Bonusly where we have an employee appreciation month. So that's all throughout March. And it's one of those moments of recognizing that, yes, we give recognition like every day, but it's one of those things that, like, we don't want it to feel, okay, it's just like, yes, it's a natural process, but there's something really exciting about recognizing that, like, if we do a double points boost and we encourage people, not just to have points for themselves, but to recognize each other, it's really powerful. Like, we got some really wonderful feedback through Bonusly on like what that meant to others and like the difference it felt like to themselves and their team. So it's, again, a signal of like, we're doing great things and really moving the needle in our culture, and where I see my team stepping up. And again, where, I feel inspired to like continue to lead or to do better, or, to just also think next level for myself.
Oh, I love that. I think the continuous moments, it's so funny because you were bringing up the HRS migration and I forgot about that. And then you were reminding me of all the nice recognition we got from ELT and, from you, of course. And now I'm like, oh yeah, we did do that last year. So I love that. Thank you. And I just think the continuous moments, I also think recognition for me is a couple things. I think one, it also boosts confidence. And I think two, it also kind of helps me beat my imposter syndrome sometimes I'll be like, okay, I don't know if, I'll have that imposter syndrome. And then you get a piece of recognition and you're like, oh, okay, that's great. I feel good about this now. But then it also makes me feel happy that we're also helping people. If it's really small, like if I get a recognition saying, oh, hey, thanks for like helping me with this benefit mistake. It made a huge difference. I'm like, oh, like Adri said, that's my job, but I just help somebody. And same with like when we plan events, it's like, oh, thanks for planning this event. Okay, well, it's just my job, but I'm happy I was able to put a smile on your face today. And so I think all of those moments, they're just wonderful. It's great to know that you're making a difference and an impact.
Absolutely. And that brings us to our final question. And so we want to leave our attendees with something they can take away. And so, assuming most of our audience are HR practitioners who, one, can help do some of these things with their managers, but also with their direct reports. And so, for everyone listening here, Adrian, Mollie, what is one small habit that if they're listening and they want to start tomorrow, what's one small habit, whether it's recognition or feedback or something with one-on-one practices, that they can, use and still start that can immediately make them a more effective leader. And we can start with you, Adri.
Just one, David? Um, oh my gosh, we're always happy to continue the conversation. My mind goes to so many places, but I would say for me, um, really start in the one-on-one with, can I do a combo of saying like in the one-on-ones, do a pulse check, try to set a stage of like a safe space for your team to like let you know how they're honestly doing. And in the same vein, ask them like, what can you be doing better as a leader to help them? I think it creates that amazing space of trust, but also vulnerability, to know. And when you tell your team sometimes you're a 3, it's not to be a Debbie Downer on a scale of 1 to 5. Sometimes it lets them know that you're also human, and that you're in the trenches with them, right? So I think that those pulse checks can make a tremendous difference in just knowing where your team stands, why, and in that vein, knowing where they're at. How can you be doing better, or what do they need to be getting to that 4 and 5? Because that's where we want our teams to feel the most engaged, thriving, and empowered and successful.
I love that. I would say, this is a good question. I would say something that really works for me, with Adri's, when it comes to feedback, is real life, in the moment feedback. I think oftentimes people hear the word feedback and they're like, no, I don't want it, stay away, or I don't want to give it. And it's like so big and heavy and like such like a ominous word. And it shouldn't be. It should be something as simple as like, hey, here's the decks for all hands. And Adrian could say like, oh, let's just add a bullet point there to make it read clear. That's feedback. That's us learning. It's easy, it's light, and it's in real time. And so that's what really works well for me, and how I apply things to my daily life. So I would say when looking at feedback, it can be small, it can be light, it can still be positive, even though it's constructive, and it doesn't have to be something, scary either.
For sure. And I think one thing that I'll share that came from a webinar, I want to say last month maybe, but we were talking about especially the importance of recognizing your direct reports. I mean, peer-to-peer recognition is huge, but when you're recognized from your manager, it just means a lot. And so, similar to how in the tool for Bonusly, it's called a manager giving tracker. So it has all your direct reports. So that way the manager makes sure that throughout the month they at least recognize their direct report at least once. But if you don't have a tool or anything like that, one of our speakers shared like they put all their direct reports on like a little sticky note and put it on their computer at the beginning of the month. And then throughout the month, they, cross off once they've recognized that direct report. So that way they make sure at least at like the minimum, they're recognizing someone at least once that month. And so I think that's a small, easy way that they can make that top of mind. But Adri, Mollie, I cannot believe we're already at time. Thank you both so much. We only had, I think, 1 or 2 questions come in, and so we'll be sure to follow up with you all after. But I do want to share Adri and Mollie's LinkedIn. I know they would love to connect with you all if you have any questions from them, if you have anything that you want to just further talk with them about. I'm sure they would love to discuss that with you. And so be sure you connect with them there. And then I also do want to launch a quick poll. We talked about Bonusly just a little bit throughout this conversation, but if there are, anything that you want to just explore when it comes to recognition or one-on-ones, or feedback, we cover it all, and we aim to, not only make HR's life easier by helping automate a lot of things, and like we said, democratize that recognition piece. But we really just want to help instill that relationship between managers and their direct reports, because we truly believe that that relationship is crucial, in enabling performance and building performance, and really just those small recognitions throughout the year just really built up into better outcomes for the employees, but also better outcomes for the business. And so answer that call or answer that poll. We would love to chat with you, get to know you and what you may be dealing with at your company, what you may be looking to solve or help out for. I'll leave that up just for a little bit longer. But again, Adri, Mollie, thank you so much. Adri, I hope you have a wonderful birthday this weekend. And everyone attending in the States, I hope you all have a long weekend coming up as well. I hope you all enjoy it, have some time with friends or family, and stay tuned. We will send out an email for next month's webinar, which will be all around AI. And so stay tuned for that. It's going to be a great one with our CEO. And so be on the lookout for that invite. But again, thank you all so much for spending an hour with us today, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much.